along to our agenda for tonight. So I will go ahead and give a really quick overview as I usually do, and then we can jump right into the agenda. So let me just show what we have going for us tonight. So this meeting is being held virtually. It's being held on Zoom as the platform and hosted by Van Buren Township. It is also being broadcast on the YouTube channel. And we are still holding remote meetings at the direction of our board and following the direction of the Wayne County Act earlier this year regarding their public meeting policies. If you paid attention to the board meeting recently, it looks like the board may revisit in-person meetings in September, and then we think we can reevaluate what's going on with the Planning Commission and other commissions at that time. In the meantime, though, we will be again holding this remotely, so I'll ask the participants if they have anything to say to either raise their hand virtually, chat, or use the *9 if you're calling in. Just if the planning commissioners could just mention that whether they're in the township during this meeting or where they are remotely. Then otherwise, I will just briefly summarize that we have two new business items on our agenda tonight. One is a consideration of a preliminary and final site plan for the South Yost LLC, or by the business name VBTS LLC transfer station for a waste transfer station covered shelter. And then the other one is for an extension of a previous temporary land use approval for DuBuck's Corn Maze and Pumpkin Patch on Martz Road. With that, I will turn the agenda over to our chair, Carol Thompson.
Thanks, Director Power. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Charter Township of Van Buren Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, June 23rd of 2021. We'll start with a roll call, please. Ms. Hubbard, if you will call the roll.
Jeff Jar.
Here in the township.
Brian Cullen.
Here in the township.
Byron Kelly.
Here on the west side of the state. I am not in the township tonight.
Medina Atchison.
Here in the township.
Callie Barr.
Here in the township.
Sherry Budd.
Here in the township.
Carol Thompson.
Here, I'm also in the township this evening. Thank you. We have an agenda before us. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chair, motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Commissioner Jar, support. Commissioner Budd. Any changes or additions? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote to approve, please.
Jeff Jar.
Yes.
Brian Cullen.
Yes.
Byron Kelly.
Yes.
Medina Atchison.
Yes.
Callie Barr.
Yes.
Sherry Budd.
Yes.
Carol Thompson.
Yes, so our agenda is approved. And let me just quickly say welcome to a new planning commissioner, Ms. Barr. We're happy to have you here. And also make a note that Brian Kelly's name is Brian, not Byron. So there must be a spelling error somewhere. We'll get that corrected. So we have two Bryans with different spellings on the commission.
I apologize.
That's all right. I knew you didn't do it on purpose. I think someone gave you bad information. Now we're corrected. Let's go to the minutes from our regular meeting of June 9th of 2021. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Commissioner Kelly. Support?
I'll support.
Thanks, Commissioner Cullen. Any changes or corrections? Hearing none, a roll call vote for approval, please.
Jeff Jar.
Yes.
Brian Kelly.
Yes.
Brian Cullen.
Yes.
Medina Atchison.
Yes.
Callie Barr.
Yes.
Sherry Budd.
Yes.
Carol Thompson.
Yeah, thank you. So our minutes are approved. We'll go right into new business tonight. Our first item is the BBTS LLC which is 44145 Yost Road, looking for a preliminary and plan approval. The applicant, Rob Wagner of Midwestern Consulting, is here on behalf of owner VBTS LLC and has applied to construct a 5,400 square foot roof structure to be used for sheltering a waste transfer area along with related site improvements. Again, the location is 44145 Yost Road. That is parcel number 830099900040001. The site is roughly 1.2 acres in area, and it is located on the south side of Yost Road, east of Sheldon Road. The parcel is zoned M1 Light Industrial. We'll start first with a presentation from Township staff. Director Power.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Planning Commission is familiar with this proposal. The Planning Commission first was introduced to this project at their regular meeting on March 24th, where the project plan was initially presented, which is typical for a preliminary discussion like that before a variance request goes to our Board of Zoning Appeals for anything that requires a variance that will ultimately also require site plan review. The Planning Commission will review it first, and then it will go to the BZA for a variance before it comes back to the Planning Commission. So just to kind of summarize how we got from point A to where we are today, at that meeting on March 24th, the Planning Commission was shown this because it's a project that's going to require both side and rear yard setback variances to allow this shelter that's being proposed to encroach within the required rear and side yard setbacks on this site. That variance was granted by the BZA at their regular meeting in April. And now before you, you have fairly basic proposal for a, like the chair said, a 5,400 square foot shelter over a solid waste transfer area. This is a solid waste transfer facility that's been in operation since the early 1970s. In 2018, it took on different ownership. And at that time, the state of Michigan, formerly DEQ, now is known as Eagle, required a shelter over the waste staging area as part of their approval for an operating license. And that is what primarily prompts this review. But it is a full level site plan review that's going to require an overall review of the applicable sections of the zoning ordinance, including landscaping, parking requirements, as well as applicable sections of our township engineering standards and fire department review. So we are at that point tonight. The case has had a preliminary review by the Planning Commission, two variances granted by the BZA, and now we are ready to hear the technical comments on the site plan with those variances achieved. So with that, I would like to hear from our principal planner, Vidya Krishnan, and we also have Stephen Clayton, our township engineer, and I can summarize the fire department's comments at the end of their discussions as well.
Thank you, Director Power, members of the board. As Director Power already summarized it, this is a site located on the south side of Yost Road and is zoned M1 Light Industrial. Now, solid waste facilities are not permitted in the M1 district. This is, however, an existing non-conforming use. And the reason the applicant is before you, as Director Power stated, was because of the state mandated requirement to provide covered shelter over their outdoor storage areas. All of the required information for site plan has been provided on the plan. We had some concerns about fire department circulation on the site. And at this time, the designation of fire safety routes on the site, to our knowledge, has been approved by the fire department and has been deemed acceptable. With regard to dimensional requirements, as was mentioned, the required front, rear, and side yard setbacks in the district are 50 feet, 40 feet, and 40 feet respectively. The applicant did receive a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals at their April 13th meeting for a 0-foot rear yard setback, which abuts the railroad lines, and for a 7.89-foot side yard setback, which would keep the line of the proposed addition in line with the existing non-conforming building. With regard to access and circulation, there is currently an existing 30-foot wide access drive that is shared with the site to the east. This is a joint driveway that is in good condition and is maintained by an entity called VBTS, of which the applicant's business is a part. Cross access does exist with the property to the east. Cross access to the west is not applicable at this time. There is a vacant industrial building and an overgrown site on the west. So at this time, cross access is not being required. There are no sidewalks along the frontage of this site and really none in this area. This is mostly a light to heavy industrial area and master plan as such. We do not anticipate pedestrian activity in this area either now or in the future. So a sidewalk is not being required at this time. However, the applicant has agreed to be participant in a future program in case the township decides to install sidewalks. The applicant will agree to participate for their required financial share in putting the sidewalk through. Truck movements have been shown on the site plan and are acceptable. The site plan includes area for employee parking, which shows 4 parking spaces that are double striped as required by the ordinance. Based on the ordinance requirement, 15 parking spaces are required for this particular business. The site has got only 4 parking spaces. So the site is deficient by 11 parking spaces. However, the ordinance does grant the Planning Commission the authority to modify parking requirements, provided an applicant presents data before you showing that those additional spaces that are required by the ordinance are not really necessary. Now, the applicant has provided on-site data parking requirements, and it shows that no more than 3 employees are ever there on the site at any one time. This is not the kind of business that requires pedestrians or customers to go in there. People who come there are the employees who are working at the facilities. And at a max, they have 3 employees at any one time. So we believe the reduction in parking that they are proposing is acceptable at this time, and the Planning Commission can modify the request for parking and grant the deviation. With regard to loading space, it is dimensioned on the site plan for a size of 10 foot by 50 feet as required by the ordinance. As to landscaping and screening, our ordinance does have extensive requirements, and even though the applicant is making this change to comply with state licensing requirements, we would review the entire plan for compliance with the ordinance. The landscaping with regard to the right-of-way at this time, the site is going to be compliant. They have submitted aerial images which show several trees and an existing evergreen hedge along the front of the property. The applicant is adding some vegetation in order to make sure that it meets the current ordinance standards. In lieu of some of the trees and shrub requirement, the applicant has justified that there is an existing hedgerow along the site's Yost Road frontage, and that satisfies the ordinance requirement. As to parking lot landscaping, the landscape plan submitted by the applicant does show what is required. With regard to interior parking lot landscaping, our ordinance has got specific requirements where landscape islands need to be provided. And each island has to have a minimum size of 300 square feet. Now, the site plan does indicate, Director Power, if you could zoom in on the north side of the existing building, it shows a 265 square foot raised planting bed with 3 shrubs, when the minimum landscape island site required size is 360 square feet. Per the applicant, a tree is less likely to survive given the use of the site, which we concur with. It is a solid waste recycling facility. It is a heavy industrial use. Putting in trees right next to the building where heavy metal work and stuff is dismantled is not in the best interest of those plantings' health. So shrubs are a better option. In this case, if the shrubs die, the applicant will be required to replace them in order to maintain the landscaping. The Planning Commission does have the discretion to allow for substitution of the shrubs instead of a tree, and reduction in the landscape island size to increase the viability of the plantings proposed there. With regard to greenbelt buffering, a 10-foot wide buffer with 1 tree per 30 linear feet is required along the north and west property lines. A 10-foot buffer has been shown along the north property line. Now, along the west property line, it is only 7.8 feet wide because that is where the existing building is placed, and the applicant received a variance for the proposed addition to be located along the line. Director Power just now showed on the screen that dividing line between this property and the property to the west is heavily vegetated. It is wooded with a mix of trees and shrubs. We believe the intent of the greenbelt is screening, and the existing vegetation does provide the screening that is required. It makes no sense to remove existing vegetation to replace it with smaller plantings. So we would find the acceptable vegetation line along the west property line acceptable. The site also, the plan, or there is an existing nonconformity, so that is acceptable. The site also shows a concrete wall along the west side of the property. A 20-foot wide buffer with one tree for every 20 linear feet is required along the south property line, which abuts a railroad track. Once again, with a 0-foot rear yard setback for the proposed addition and the use of the property for solid waste sorting and recycling, there is really no room for a green belt at all. There is an existing fence and a concrete wall that is present at this property line, and on the other side of it, abutting the railroad track, once again, is a dense, heavily vegetated area. We believe this meets the intent of the ordinance. The plan does not involve removal of any trees, so a tree removal permit is not required at this time. The stormwater detention for the site is subject to review and approval by the township engineer and Wayne County. With regard to lighting, the applicant did submit photographs of existing wall-mounted light fixtures. We did not believe that the existing fixtures were adequately shielded. So at this time, the applicant is proposing to replace all of the existing wall-mounted fixtures with new fixtures that are adequately shielded in compliance with the ordinance. In lieu of traditional elevations, the applicant has provided manufacturer's cut sheet detail for the proposed metal building system. This is not a standard building where individual foundation is poured and each brick or masonry unit is laid. It is a masonry building system that goes up as a structurally stable addition to the existing building. The applicant, it appears that the entire addition that they're building is to be constructed of metal panels designed to match the existing building. But the applicant needs to clarify, which I'm hoping Mr. Wagner will do tonight when he presents, which part of it is the new addition, which is the existing building, and how the transition between the two will be seamless. With regard to dumpster, the plan does not include any dumpster enclosure, and the site does handle solid waste. Any office wastes that are generated will be handled through the site's existing solid waste removal program itself. There is no dedicated dumpster needed at this time. With regard to other details, there are 2 rollout containers that were shown on the site plan. They were located just north of the south property line, abutting the fence and the concrete wall. The applicant has noted that the roll of containers will be located inside the new building structure, which is required by the ordinance. The applicant has been working with the township for the past several months, not only to get the site as much up to code as feasible. For a site that was built in 1970s, there are lots of things that simply cannot be altered at this point of time. The applicant is making their best effort to bring it as much into compliance with code as is possible at this time. They even appeared before the Planning Commission for feedback, went to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a variance, and are back at this time for preliminary and site plan approval. We believe the plan is in an adequate state at this time to recommend both preliminary and final site plan approval, subject to the 5 conditions that are listed in our letter, which would be Planning Commission approval of modified parking requirement based on the justification and reasoning provided by the applicant, Planning Commission approval of modifications to the landscape plan, accepting the vegetation along Yost Road frontage, smaller landscape island, and substitution of tree for shrubs within the island. Planning Commission approval of the existing wall and fence along the south property line to satisfy the screening intent, approval of the stormwater detention system by township engineer and Wayne County, and clarification regarding the proposed elevations, materials, and colors. Out of these, essentially, only the elevations need clarification at this meeting. 3 of the conditions basically involve Planning Commission motion tonight. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Ms. Krishnan. Very thorough. I think we'll go directly to Fishbeck's review and recommendation, and then if there are questions, we can come back to you. So, Mr. Clayton.
Thank you, Director Powers and members of the board. We have reviewed the preliminary and final site plan submitted to the township April 26, 2021 for the Yost Road transfer station located at 44145 Yost Road. The applicant also submitted a response letter dated April 19th, 2021, in response to our staff review letter dated March 9th of this year. We are recommending the Planning Commission grant the Yost Road Transfer Station preliminary and final site plan approval based on our engineering review of the proposed site. I'll go through these comments quickly as there's not much for us to review. We noted in general that the soil boring information as it is gathered during construction will need to be presented during construction, and that if any unfavorable soil conditions are found, then modifications to the foundation must be made. We also understand that the applicant has submitted and obtained Michigan Department of Environmental, Great Lakes and Energy, or EGLE license for the solid waste disposal area operating license, and that the applicant must also submit the engineering plans to EGLE for the building improvements. Another minor comment was just that the issue for construction plan set should not include the employee schedule or the applicant's response letter. There were no water main service, proposed water mains or water main connections. The plans also do not indicate any proposed sanitary sewer mains or service connections. For the storm sewer, the plans indicate runoff from the structure collected through a roof drain and then directed to the nearest catch basin in the loading dock near the southeast corner of the proposed building, as noted on the plans. The plans also indicate that there's no increase in impervious surface due to the proposed improvements. With that, the only other comment that we had was that the soil erosion and sediment control measures must be included. The plans do include catch basin inlet filters, which has been added to the plans. So with this, we are recommending the Planning Commission grant the Yost Road Transfer Station preliminary and final site plan approval.
Thanks, Mr. Clayton. Good information. Let's also have Director Power, if you will, just review anything of note from the fire department's review.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the fire department, one of the main aspects of the review that they were concerned with was the, of course, the fire protection to the site and the water service or lack thereof here. But they had written a memo that I verified with Fire Marshal Lenahan that is still current, that approved this plan with conditions that the building is constructed with non-combustible materials. And the second one is that the facility does not take in any type of waste that would be considered fire or environmental hazard. And so those are conditions of approval from the fire marshal.
Great. I understand that Mr. Wagner for the applicant is here and he has some information to share with us. Welcome, Mr. Wagner. And if you can also tell us a little bit more about your building materials in your presentation.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Dan and Vidya and Stephen. Like they said, we've been working on this for several months, and at one time, McKenna's letter had a lot more underlines than it does now. So this is our. We also thank the Planning Commission for getting us through the variance process, and I'll take a short time to presented here a few months ago. I don't know if there's a chance to share my screen, Dan. Let's see.
You should be able to use the share screen.
Yeah.
At the center.
Okay.
Let us know.
And really what I'm going to do, this is part of your packet. So I'll just use your packet so I can kind of refer to sections that are in front of you right now. I'm Rob Wagner with Midwestern Consulting, the civil engineer on behalf of South Yost LLC and on behalf of the owner's representative, Kevin Ramirez. A lot of this was in Vidya's report already, but this is at 44145 Yost Road. It's a 1.5 acre parcel on the south side, east of Sheldon. Vidya mentioned it's M1 district. What we're proposing right here is a 5,400 square foot roof structure over the existing refuse facility, like they said, required by the state. And I'd like to point out, this is not even though we say a building, it's really a three-sided windbreak structure to keep the trash from blowing, to neighbors and off the property. To shelter the outdoor waste transfer station, transfer area. And it's already been said, this has been functioning since the 1970s. And I know the one thing you want to talk about is the architecture. Madam Chair, would you want me just to skip the other 3 or so items that Vidya had and just get right to the architecture part, or?
No, go right ahead and
Okay,
and
all
touch
right.
on Vidya's items.
Yeah,
Then we
okay.
won't come back and ask you again.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I'll do that. Let's see. Trying to. Sometimes the Zoom, that the menu things are in the way of what you're trying to push. That's what's happening to me right at the moment here.
That's okay. Take your time.
If I could get rid of that menu, I could use my computer like I always do. Let's see here. Nope, that doesn't do it.
Mr. Wagner, sometimes I have trouble panning. Oh, there you go. Looks like you're getting it.
No, I'm looking for, I'm looking for my minus symbol so I can get this back to scale. When I'm at the office, I have such a large screen, so I'm used to working on something a little bit larger. But all I was going to do was go to the part of the packet that has the parking counts. I'm going to go back to here. So anyways, I'll just reference what's in your packet because I'm looking at a hard copy and I know you have it, but Vidya already, she mentioned it and she has it in her report, but there is a list that the owner, they logged dates of the number of parked cars there. And so just so you have the justification in the packet, like Vidya already talked about, the maximum, number of employees that parked on site was 3 out of like a 3-month long log. So we would request that you would allow the, the proposed, 4 spaces and instead of the 15. The modification to the landscape plan, I will go to the next page. And we've talked about this, and I just want to say that our landscape architect also, he was the one that suggested the 3 shrubs would be, more viable and have a better chance to live than 1 tree in this area. And that's another thing that that's the discretion of the planning commission. So we had asked for your approval for those shrubs instead of the tree as well. On the south side, we need the planning commission's approval of the screening that we show here with this picture, that this is along the railroad, that this concrete wall and this fence would suffice as the screening there. And now we'll have to get to those elevations. So get to that. I'm skipping a little bit from the elevations, but the proposed color is in your packet. It's this sandstone right here. So that's what is being proposed as far as the color. And then we do have the elevations. I just gotta get to that. Dan, if I gave you the screen, could you maybe put those elevations up? I'm just, this isn't working well on my little laptop here.
Sure can. Just let me know if I get them incorrect. I know there's a couple different types of elevations in the packet, so I think I know which one you're.
Yeah, it's the ones that are colored.
Yep, let me get that. Zoom into it, just one moment.
It's like my plus and minus symbol are missing from my Adobe here.
So this is more the,
Yeah, yeah. So that's all I was going to bring up. And so we do show the existing building and the elevations, how it does connect to it, and the color. It is a pre-manufactured prefab metal building that's designed by this Nucor company that we also, like Vidya said, we have the whole cut sheet and packet that we supplied with our submittal. But these are the elevations, and they do show like the heights and the existing structure and how the proposed structure does tie into it. This is looking from the east.
and so, Mr. Wagner, just to help everybody orient, because it can be a little tricky to look at section drawings like that. Just quickly, I'll try to show a different perspective of the existing site so that everybody's on the same page of what that image was showing. You're looking west, as you mentioned, and I'm just going to see if this helps to visualize it a little bit differently. Give me 1 second here. I might have my own technical challenges, but let's see. All right, so I'm going to show this is just a simple Google image, but correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Wagner, but you were looking, orienting, let's use my arrow here. We were looking facing that way, right? And so the new addition would be in the area just to the left of that existing building.
Yep, that's correct.
Got it. Does that make sense to everybody? I'll stop this share and we can go to either image if it helps. Glad to pull up each of those images, but Mr. Wagner, you could go ahead and finish your discussion if you had anything else to add.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, and if Vidya has, maybe she can raise her hand and we can discuss it a little bit. But we kind of pointed to the section in the packet where we did have the elevations and the existing drawing and the color and everything like that. So if it needs to be furthered, I mean, we could work with staff on that. But we feel that the color and the elevations and the heights and everything's been drawn as well as it can for a prefab metal building.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mr. Wagner. That's all very helpful. I'm going to ask for Planning Commission questions or comments at this point. And can you guys let us know in your comments if you support the recommendations for the parking and the change in the parking requirements and also the landscaping, and if you have any other questions or comments. Anyone?
Through the chair,
Sure, Commissioner Atkinson.
looking at attachment A, can you show us where the parking spots would be? The 3 parking spots that you're asking for?
I can show that, and I think I can show my packet now, Dan. I figured out where that was, so let me share my screen. And
I think showing the site plan, Mr. Wagner, and pointing out where the spaces are going to be would be helpful.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, here we go. And I'll zoom up. I'll get to the page and then we'll zoom to that. So yeah, and this is kind of where they park anyways right now, but what we're gonna do is stripe these areas per the township ordinance, just north of that existing building that Dan was showing. So the 4 spaces are 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is that planter where the shrubs will be there, kind of screening the building from the parking.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, one, two,
I see the 4 spots now.
okay.
And to answer the question, I support the accommodation of the 4 spaces, 4 parking spaces. Then can you show again where the shrubs would be?
Yep, I'm gonna go to the next sheet, the landscape plan. Which should be right there.
Well, if all else fails, I can try mine. I have my
Yeah, just,
open to the landscape sheet too, so just let
yeah,
me.
just show that landscape sheet. It's like the memory in my Adobe, something's going on with it. Yep, so it's right there. I'm moving my cursor that you can't see it, but it's just north of the building. Yeah, it's got it right there. So there's the 3 shrubs. And then in our response letter, we also had a picture kind of showing what that could look like, what it looks like on another project anyways. And those are fine line buckthorns is what our landscape architect picked for that area.
Were you able to recognize that, Commissioner Atkinson?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yes,
No, that's okay. I never know what everybody else is seeing on their screen. I only know what I'm seeing on mine. So, all right. Anything else at this time, Commissioner Atkinson?
No.
Thank you. Other commissioners?
Through the chair,
Commissioner Bud?
I don't have a problem with the different plannings that they want in the parking requirements. I would go along with all of that. I'm glad this is finally gonna, through all the work they've done on it, and it'll definitely look better, but most of us won't see it because it kind of sits back there by its lonesome. So good luck in getting that finished.
Great, thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner John?
Yeah, I appreciate the amount of data that was included with the justification for the parking.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm convinced. I also think while I am for the trees, I understand the logic of using the bushes there instead. I think 3 living bushes are better than 1 sickly tree. And I also think that the existing concrete wall and fence along the south property line should satisfy the screening intent of the ordinance. I am fine with those concessions. I did have a question about the color. The prefab metal building is to be sandstone. Is the roof also metal, and is that also sandstone?
I'm not 100% sure, to be quite honest. But I don't know if I even have that information here. I'm not gonna lie and say I know that.
Appreciate that answer. More of a curiosity. I think that with the sandstone on the sides, it should work. It should look fine. Yeah, I have no more questions at this time. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Commissioner Jar. Someone else? Let me ask if anyone in the audience has comments on this agenda item.
There are no comments on this item in the chat, but there's a comment that I will address in our general comments at the end. Let me see if there's any hands raised. Nope, no comments.
Great, thanks, Director Power. Anything else from the commission? All right, we've had this project several times and had excellent information back from the applicant. Are we ready to take action? Is there a motion?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Kelly?
I move to grant the applicant preliminary and final site plan approval to construct a 5,400 square foot roof structure at 44145 Yost Road based on the analysis and subject to the conditions detailed in the McKenna letter dated June 4th, 2021, the Fishback letter dated June 15th, 2021, the Van Buren Fire letter dated March 3rd, 2021, with some specific notations that we are accepting the proposed parking reduction based on the explanation regarding employee need, accepting the modifications to the landscaping plan, including the existing vegetation along Yost Road frontage, smaller landscape island size, and substitution of the tree shrubs for the tree, as well as accepting the existing concrete wall and fence line in satisfaction for the screening intent of the ordinance.
Excellent. Thank you. Is there support?
Madam Chair, I support that motion.
Thanks, Commissioner Jar. We have a motion and support. Any discussion? In that case, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Jeff Jar,
Yes.
Brian Cullen,
Yes.
Brian Kelly,
Yes.
Medina Atchison,
Yes.
Callie Barr,
Yes.
Sherry Bud,
Yes.
Carol Thompson.
Yes, thank you. So congratulations to our applicant, BBTX LLC and Midwestern Consulting. We look forward to seeing your improvements, even though we won't actually notice them as much because of your location. But it was a long road, and you guys were great to work with to meet all of the changes that were required under some pretty special circumstances. So thank you for that, and thanks to staff and all of our professionals for their good work.
Yep. Thank you. And the roof will match the existing building and the sandstone. So I did figure that out while you were voting. Thank you very much.
Okay, great.
Thank you for the clarification.
Good. All right, we'll go to our second new business item tonight. It is Norland Investment LLC, DeBuck's Corn Maze and Pumpkin Patch. The applicant, Scott DeBuck, is requesting an extension to a previous 8-year temporary land use approval for agricultural, tourism, and recreation uses granted by the Planning Commission on June 26th of 2013. The location, parcel number 83-12199-0008-000, is also known as 50240 Martz Road. Also parcel 83-12299-0002-000. The subject parcels are located on the north and south sides of Martz Road between Huft and Rossonville Roads and are zoned ag, agriculture, and estate. And Director Power, you want to give us a quick overview of how we came to look at this item again?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I will show something that might just help to provide an overall framework for tonight's review. There is a site plan and a detailed narrative submitted by the applicant, but I will show just one image, and we can refer to those other documents as well. But this kind of gives you an overview of the site and where it is located in the township. So many of you may be familiar with DeBuck's Corn Maze and Pumpkin Patch. It's been a farm since the 1990s, kind of picking up steam from being a family farm prior to that point. And then in 2009, 2010, the owner had sought to begin bringing some more creative uses to the site, including a corn maze and pumpkin patch. And so there was a series of temporary land use approvals that authorized continuing seasonal uses of that nature on this site. And again, this is 50240 Martz Road. There's Martz Road here, and you can see where we are in the sort of the southwest corner of the township, just north of Martz Road, about a mile east of the township border at Rossonville Road. So again, this overall concept began being proposed to the Planning Commission as a temporary land use, first in 2010 and then in 2013. There's an important distinction here that this is a project that did not undergo a permanent site plan approval in terms of any kind of use that would warrant the full standards of the zoning ordinance for parking, surfacing, stormwater management, and some of the more rigorous standards in the zoning ordinance, with the idea being that this is a desirable agricultural use that is seasonal in nature, and so it would be more appropriately accommodated through our temporary land use regulations. What we found in reviewing this request is that the Planning Commission actually has discretion to clarify a length of time for a temporary land use approval, while most temporary land uses, for good reason, are authorized for up to a year. This one obviously had some longer approval timeframes. And again, the last time this was reviewed, it was in 2013 by the Planning Commission. And there were some conditions imposed at that time. Before I go into kind of picking up where we left off in 2013, just as again, a summary of the site. The site includes a corn maze up in the, if you look at the site plan, it's oriented a little bit differently. So the corn maze is actually up in the northeast corner of the site. It's about, my notes say 12 acres in area. There's also a 20+ acre pumpkin patch. There are wagon rides, pollinator garden, various games and activities, and there's also dining in the main barn facility of the site. One of the main agricultural activities at the site is the sod farm, and then that sod farm is at the southeast corner of the site. There's also a parking area that is a mowed, well-maintained parking area, but it does not have formal surfacing or formally striped parking spaces for the most part, and that's over on the southwest corner of the site. The arrows that I show on this image, there is one main entrance that takes you to the parking area, to my understanding, and then there are 2 emergency entrances as well. There's also 2 fire hydrants along the property's frontage. And so what I'd like to go over is that at this point, we are at another critical point where as of June 26th of this year, the last 8-year approval will expire. So we, at the very least, owe it to the applicant to re-evaluate the temporary land use approval and discuss extending it. And I would like to talk about both the review of this project under that temporary land use process, but also talk about where we go next. The first thing I'll do is just summarize the different criteria within a temporary land use request under section 7.120 of the Van Buren Township zoning ordinance. And so I'll briefly go over all these points, which were also in the 2013 McKenna report regarding the approval at that time. So the first point is parking and access. As I mentioned, there's a parking area on the southwest corner of the site. There's also a main access near that location. The parking area, one of the changes is that the area they're designating as being available for parking has increased slightly from 7 acres to 10 acres. I will ask the Planning Commission to consider conditions of approval with this extension that include that there's a clarification on the overall estimated number of parking spaces and acreage that the Planning Commission is comfortable with, as well as the dimensions of handicap or barrier-free spaces being shown on the plan, which in fact they are shown on the plan. If you look what actually is on the east, sort of the eastern portion of that parking area closer to the buildings, you'll see a designated area for accessible parking. So that condition is already met. With respect to drainage, there are many small activity areas, and there are some existing buildings that are not changing with the scope of this approval. So there are no new impacts on drainage. With respect to compatibility with surrounding land uses, this is a evolution of existing uses that have been approved in the past, and they're agricultural in nature, also, of course, with a recreational and sort of entertainment component. But again, these uses are not changing in a significant way in terms of their impact on surrounding land uses. And so I find no issues with what's proposed here. I will mention that there are some references to future uses that will be addressed at a later date. With respect to the construction of the proposed buildings, their size, height, and type, those are not changing. Regarding setbacks, the agricultural zoning district will define the setbacks here, and that includes a 50-foot front yard setback, as well as 25-foot combined side and 35-foot rear setbacks. There's nothing here that's changing regarding the setbacks, although I will ask for reiteration of the condition from 2013 that the parking area maintains a setback of 75 feet from Martz Road, which it will meet that standard and then some. There are no real impacts to utilities with this extension of the approval, there are also no new impacts on sanitary facilities. The sanitary facilities that are at the site now will continue to be used. With trash disposal and cleanup, we will continue to ask the applicant to maintain the trash disposal and pick it up on a daily basis. There are certain uses that are more daytime uses here that will include the U-Pick farm that operates every weekday 9 to 5. There's also the other uses on the site that the hours will be 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Fridays and 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays regarding the pumpkin patch and the corn maze. And I'm comfortable, we are comfortable with those hours. The site will continue to use some 15-foot tall lighting and a 32 square foot sign. The site will continue to be expected to have current Wayne County Health Department licenses for food. The impacts on noise, odor, and glare are not expected to change significantly. And I will add, we have not had complaints on this use to my understanding over the past years, especially certainly not since I have been with the township. We also talk about fire lanes, fire protection, and security. Again, there are a couple of hydrants on this site. There are some security personnel near the corn maze, and there's more than adequate access for the township's fire personnel. One thing I will ask is that related to a building permit that is open currently for some adjustments on the inside of the food barn, that the township fire marshal gives a final approval on that prior to the permit being closed. The requested extension is not expected to impact traffic significantly beyond what is currently happening, and there are no reported issues of traffic concerns that I'm aware of at the site to date. And then there is no requirement for any new bonding for this approval. And then finally, there is just a comment about other conditions related to health, safety, and welfare, and I have no additional concerns. So in summary, a lot of my conditions are reflective of some of the conditions that were imposed at the approval in 2013. Those conditions include that the number of spaces, or at least the area of the site designated for parking, because there are no formally striped parking spaces, that area is clarified, and the Planning Commission is comfortable with that tonight. That there will continue to be the barrier-free spaces shown on the plans, that the approval does not account for any future use. It is just referring to what's being proposed on the site right now. That there's a final approval from the Township Public Safety Department, including from the fire marshal prior to the occupancy of the building when this current building permit is closed, and that the site continues to have all current licenses from Wayne County Health Department and other required licenses available as necessary. The most important condition, though, is perhaps that we, as a township and the applicant, recognize that this is a valued use in the community. It's also what's becoming more of a permanent fixture in the township. And so while it doesn't fall neatly into a temporary land use category, it is also not something that fits neatly into the criteria for a permanent site plan or permanent special land use that would warrant the full scope of current township standards. So one thing that I'm asking the Planning Commission to consider is allowing this to be a shorter term of approval to allow additional research to be done to see if this is the direction we want to keep going with for this site, or perhaps if there's a better approach that will involve looking at how the state law allows for some of these flexible uses on a more permanent basis with respect to right to farm. Also looking at where some of these uses may be better served by some zoning ordinance visiting regarding possible provisions for agritourism, which some communities use agritourism language in their zoning ordinances. But I just ask that the Planning Commission give Mr. DeBuck and I and other staff a chance to come back with some findings on best practices for these types of uses and see if it's something that would be better handled through not a continuing extension of temporary land use approvals, but perhaps through some different zoning ordinance language or policy based on some findings with the state law. So I am asking for a temporary land use approval tonight, but on the condition that within perhaps the next year, perhaps the next 2 years, we reevaluate if this is the right course to continue doing temporary land use approvals for this site. At this point, I'd like to give the applicant a chance to talk a little bit about their use. And after Mr. DeBuck does that, I'm glad to talk through this further with the Planning Commission.
Thanks, Director Powers. It's a really thoughtful and thorough review. And we wrestled with the decision on temporary versus something more permanent last time. This is what we had come up with. So you have good insight into where we've been. And also, I think you have an understanding of where we might need to go. Let's hear from Mr. DeBuck and what their plans are for this year anyway, so that we can continue to support their excellent work.
Mr. DeBuck, there you go. So you unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Well, my brother Scott, he's the better talker, but he's not on there right now, so I'll take over.
Okay.
Yeah, Dan summed it up pretty well. You know, we've been in the community doing this for 13 years, and we love what we do, and we like putting smiles on the families' faces. And yeah, we just, you know, we've had a good history. We haven't had any complaints. We haven't had any problems. And we're just, we like to continue on doing what we're doing.
That sounds great. Do you guys have a theme for this year, or you haven't announced it yet?
We do. The theme is sunflower and butterflies.
Okay.
So it's a sunflower and butterflies. And we're hoping they're supposed to come plant the maize here pretty soon this week, but it's supposed to rain, so we're not sure what we're going to do. But we'll get it in one way or the other.
It sounds like the farmer's lament.
Yeah.
That's right. All right,
Yep.
Sherry Bud. Great.
I know all about that.
All right. All right, that's helpful. Thank you. So Director Power, how do you want to have this discussion? Do you just want questions or comments from commissioners? Do you have specific questions that you want to ask the group and then have input back? What will serve you?
Yeah, I guess maybe the first easy thing to do is just to make sure the Planning Commission is comfortable with conditions specifically relating to the site plan, which, like I said, largely reflect the conditions from the previous approval. And then just talk about whether you are maybe just looking forward and anticipating that we'll come back with some further research before this approval expires, which I would like you to just clarify how long you'd like this approval to go for, whether it's a year or 2 years, to allow us to get that research together and start doing some work sessions with you on perhaps a more permanent solution here.
Okay, sounds great. So first question to the commissioners is if you have questions, but also any comments that you have on a temporary land use permit extension. Anyone?
Madam Chair, I have a question for the applicant.
Okay.
In the parking area, it's been a little while since I've been there. Sorry, I don't remember. Is the parking area fully striped or is it open field parking?
It's an open field parking and it's kind of striped. We have handicap parking signs up towards the front, right by the ticket booth where the handicap parking is. And then we have it flagged, and then we have employees that work parking and help the cars get going and get in line.
Okay, the handicap spots are plainly marked near the entrance, I understand. Is the overflow parking always open, or is it only open when the other two parking areas fill up?
I mean, it's there, but we only use it when we need to.
Are you directing people to parking spots, or are they parking on their own? Is it like a self-park?
We have employees in the parking lot directing people where to park. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. I did not have any other questions. I was just curious how the parking situation worked. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Commissioner Jar. Other commissioners?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Sure, Commissioner Cullen.
Yes, I was wondering, why are we going from, if we were limited to 500 cars in the past, why are you going with an additional 3 acres for parking, Eric?
Well,
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, go ahead, Scott. You can take
Oh,
this
I'm sorry,
one.
Eric. I'm on now? All right, figured it out.
Go ahead.
Hey, guys. It's good to see you. Hi, Dan. Thank you. Hi, Madam Chair. It's good to see you again.
Great to see you too. Welcome
Thank
back.
you, guys. To answer that question, Eric can answer it too. Our business has been growing. So we've been starting the corn maze in 2009, and every year we grow and grow and grow. And so we've expanded, we've had more fun activities and our name's getting out, and we've had a super success doing what we do, and we do a really good job at it. So more and more people want to come to our farm, and that's why we expanded our parking lot, is so that we could accommodate more people on our farm.
Okay, so you have more than 500 cars there at any given time, or are
We
you?
can have about 1,000 cars in our parking lot. So at any given time, it depends on the season. So like in October, we call them Super Bowl weekends, which would be those middle weekends in October. Those are the most popular days. So it's like a Saturday and a Sunday. Those are really the main days. So those 2 middle October weekends on Saturdays and Sundays are always the busiest. And so there will be about 1,000 cars in the parking lot at that time. At any given time, there's usually at max there's 1,000. Usually in the beginning of the day, it starts off as like 300, it goes to 500. And then at 2 o'clock, 1 to 3 o'clock is when there's like 1,000. And then it goes back down to like 800, 700, 500, and then it dwindles down. So it's that time period between 1:30 to 3 is when it's the busiest.
Okay. That's my question.
Great.
I'm happy to see this. I think this is a great idea for you, Scott.
Thank you.
Gives families something to do in the township.
Yeah, we love it. It's so fun. We absolutely love what we do. And on our busy days like that, when we do have that many cars in our parking lot, we always hire extra staff all around, especially in our parking lot, just to have a better flow, a better customer service. We want to make sure people are happy. And if there's a line someplace, we want to make sure that there's an employee there. And all of our employees wear bright yellow shirts, and they say staff on the back. And then anybody that's working in our parking lot has orange flags, like construction flags. And we always have one employee in the front by our handicap parking to make sure that they can answer any questions, help anybody that needs any help with their wheelchair accessible vans. We have a special parking spot. If you look at the map on the right-hand side, there's, I think, 20-ish handicap parking spots, and we usually put the vans there. And then on the other row, I think we have 40 plus handicap spots, and there's always an employee working there, and there's lots of signage. We have signs, we use blue tape and we use blue paint. The paint doesn't work that best, but we attempt to put the blue tape, the blue paint there, blue and white. But all of our handicap parking is marked with blue marking tape, and then there's paint on the ground. And then there's also an employee there all the time at the entrance where the handicap parking is to make sure that there's enough parking, make sure that people are parking where they're supposed to be. But we've never had an issue backed up onto Rawsonville Road, even on our busiest days. So thus far, we've been very successful.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Cullen. Someone else? All right, so commissioners, I'm asking the question now about the temporary land use permit that is needed now, actually, if the current one will expire at the end of this month, to make sure that the corn maze and all its activities go off in 2021. So how are people feeling about allowing that permit and the time frame for that?
Through the chair,
Sure, Commissioner Budd.
I guess I would just like to see it extended more than a year, just because of the fact that it's going to take us longer to look at ordinances and that kind of stuff. And so to give them a fair shake and give the planning commission and our staff time to do what they need to do, I'd like to extend it to 3 years. And, you know, I haven't walked the grounds because it's a little harder, but I'll tell you what, my grandkids have been out there. It's a great place. I think it's great family entertainment, and we're just happy they're there.
Great, thank you. Other commissioners?
Through the chair.
Commissioner Atchison.
I also support Commissioner Budd, no more than 3 years.
Okay, great, thank you.
Through
Any
the
other
chair.
commissioners? Yes, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Cullen.
I agree with what Commissioner Budd said, as well as Commissioner Atchison. I don't see a 1 year permit, temporary use permit, because if we get tied up, then we're forcing him to come back again to ask for another extension. And I agree with Commissioner Budd that I was thinking 2 years, but 3 years would be fine as far as I'm concerned.
Great, thank you.
Madam
let me
Chair.
ask- Yes, Commissioner Jar.
I'm also in favor of granting the extension to the special use permit. I'm also all right with the expansion on the parking area. I am concerned that we're not going to, I guess I want to say, I do want to direct staff that we do need to come up with some zoning best practices. If this is something that we feel should be a use by right in the ag district, we should have proper ordinances for it so that we don't have special temporary use permits that end up being, well, temporary permanent special use permits. Doesn't seem right. I don't think that it would be fair to staff or us to say 1 year, and we can have it done. I'm not so sure about. I think within 2 years, however, if we directed staff to examine the problem and let's try to do this, we do a better job of it in the ag district. We should be able to accomplish this in 2 years. And in fact, I would support a 3-year extension to this special use permit on the condition that we direct staff to better explore this agritourism and any kind of zoning ordinance changes that we made that may benefit us and the local farmers and our community.
Great, thanks, Commissioner Jar. Let me ask our applicant, the DeBucks, are you all, it seems like from the materials that you submitted in our packet that you're interested in having, even though it's seasonal work, something that is not just a temporary approval, even with several years. So are you guys willing to continue to work with staff and then with possibly with the Planning Commission to inform us about how this works for you all and help us to get to a better decision for other applicants as well as yourself?
Can you guys hear me still?
Yes.
We can.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I had talked to Dan a little bit about it, prior phone calls, and yeah, we were looking for something a little bit more permanent. And I'm a board member of an association, so I have some contacts that we can reach out with other states and try to help figure something out. But I do agree. I mean, it might be a little bit tough to do it in 1 year. So I would appreciate the extension, and then we could work together and try to find a solution for this. That'd be great.
That would be very helpful. Thank you. Because
Yeah.
not many of us are used to doing agricultural, seasonal entertainment and creative events. So that's
Madam
actually-
Chair,
Yeah, it's a unique business.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair,
Someone's calling me. Who wants to speak?
it's Vidya.
Vidya, Miss Christman, what have you got?
Well, I just wanted to say that Director Power and myself had discussed this. I've been to Debucks and it's fun. Although I got lost in the corn maze and that wasn't fun, but the kids helped me on my way out. The parking, they have a tremendous amount of crowd, but that said, their staff is really good. They really, you can get in there and get out, even though the amount of cars there are pretty phenomenal. But as Commissioner Jar said, temporary land use, you cannot have a permanent temporary land use. It's sort of an oxymoron in itself. So I think it's a contradictory statement in itself. So I think this business is there to stay. Debucks has been in the community for so long. And I do have other clients where we do have agritourism zoning ordinances, and you can write a really good ordinance that will actually help them grow in the future too, in case they come up with something else other than you pick sunflowers. If they want to expand, it would give them opportunity to do that also instead of each time coming back with a new explanation. So I would definitely be happy to work with Director Powers. I have experience in a little bit of agritourism ordinance writing, so we'll get right on it so that we can have something concrete in place for the future.
Thanks, Vidya. That's encouraging. Good to have experience as well as the wishes and the thoughts. All right. So Director Power, do you need anything else from us before we take any action?
Oh, that sounds great.
That's helpful. Okay, good. In that case, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask, any public comment on this agenda item?
Not on this agenda item.
Okay. In that case, are we ready to take action? Is there a motion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Jar.
in the matter of case 21-022 Norland Investment LLC, Debucks Corn Maze and Pumpkin Patch, located at 50240 Marks Road, for the applicant's request to extend a previous 8-year temporary land use approval for agricultural, tourism, and recreation uses that was granted by the Planning Commission on June 26, 2013. I move to first direct staff to review best practices for an agritourism zoning ordinance and to work on adopting such ordinance, and to grant the extension of the previous temporary land use approval for an additional 3 years to allow time for this research to be completed, subject to the conditions listed in Director Powers' letter dated June 18th, 2021, noting that the change in parking area from 7 to 10 acres is approved.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there support?
Support.
Support, Commissioner Atkinson. Discussion on the motion. Anyone? I have a concern in tying to the motion that we will move forward with an agribusiness, agritourism zoning ordinance when I'm not sure that we know that that's the correct answer yet. I support completely that we want to direct staff to bring back some helpful information so that we can shape what direction this the management and approval process will be, but I'm not convinced yet that it is agritourism business.
Perhaps my verbiage wasn't correct. I actually am in agreement with you, Chairperson Thompson. That was my intent, to direct staff to bring us the information so that we can further study it.
Okay. Now, let me ask Ms. Hubbard, does she have the motion or do we need to restate?
I think I got it.
You're good, girl. All right. We have motion and support and we've had discussion. It is a roll call vote, please.
Jeff Jar,
Yes.
Brian Cullen,
Yes.
Brian Kelly,
Yes.
Medina Atchison,
Yes.
Callie Barr,
Yes.
Jerry Bud,
Yes.
Carol Thompson.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all. Very thoughtful and helpful discussion. And best wishes to the DeBuck Corn Maze for 2021. And we look forward to hearing more from you. And we look forward to what staff brings back to hopefully resolve this thorny issue.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Madam Chair. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good
All right.
night.
Good night.
You too. Moving on, we are to general discussion and update. And Director Power, we're going to go back to you. You're going to introduce our new commissioner to us, and you might have some other announcements.
Yes, indeed. So, and just to keep you waiting with bated breath for that, I do have one question in the chat. It was a general question on
Okay.
a non-agenda item. So there's a chat question from Mr. Stephen Dark that he was checking on the development map online and talking about some of the updates that are on there, including what is the Denton E-Course Road project. So personally, as a map nerd, it's easy to get lost in this this map that we created. So I won't do that tonight. I won't go through all the details, but just as a reminder, you can go on our main webpage and find this in the planning and economic development section of the township's main website. You can click on that link. It'll take you to this map. And what you have is a map of zoning, future land use, and of course, planning and development activities. Specific to the Denton E-Course Road project, there are a number of points on this map that are were made when I originally started the map, including some projects that weren't really projects. They were more pre-application concept level plans. And so that's really all we had. There is actually no project submittal. There was a preliminary concept idea or plan that was presented to staff for industrial land use at that location, but I'll take that off the map because it has not been made a formal submittal to the Planning Commission and it has no real design details at this point. So I will correct this map to make sure there's no pre-application points on there, but otherwise what you see here is the current status of development in the township, and basically the black diamonds on this map are recently completed projects. So we have the Subaru Research and Development Facility, the US Signal Data Center, and then the green diamonds are going to be the under construction projects. Some of the big ones are the continuing construction on the Ashley Crossroads North site here, including the recent site plan amendment for Building 5 on that site for a distribution use. There are projects on the airport site, including the AV flight and Yankee Air Museum project being built. Then the yellow diamonds, as we get kind of closer to the red light end of the, if you're thinking about this in terms of a traffic light, we're going back to the earlier stages of proposals when you go to yellow and then red. So the yellow diamonds are projects that are pre-construction and not yet being constructed. Those include the, I believe I said that right. Just double check. So yeah, pre-construction. So that includes the Jiffy Lube at the corner of Tyler Road and Belleville Road is in that stage. The Meyer curbside addition in that area is still at that stage. And then you get into the red diamonds. Those are projects that have one more planning commission review yet to go before they can begin pre-construction and then construction. So that includes the different senior housing projects. We still have Hampton Manor here by Tyler Road and Morton Taylor Road. We have the Clover Communities project up on Belleville Road. So those are all in pre-final review stage. So in a nutshell, that's some of the big projects. I know I missed some. I'm going through a lot of information fast, but if you want to click around on there, and if anything looks like it needs a correction, please let me know and we'll correct it. But again, this works such that you click on the point, and then for the more detailed projects, you should be able to find the plans and the packet from the review of these projects that you can click on, and you'll be opened up to a page that shows that information. takes a little while to load. So there's the plans for Clover. So that's some of the most recent updates on that page. Moving on to our other agenda updates tonight. Yes, we do have a new planning commissioner. Callie Barr is here. She was recently appointed by the Board of Trustees to join our planning commission, as we have recently said so long on the planning commission to Joan Franzoy. Callie Barr is here to fill those shoes, and Callie has a lot of experience. She's a Central Michigan and University of Michigan graduate, and same goes for me. So I'm a big fan of both of those choices. But Kelly is an attorney and has spent time working for Jones Day as well as the University of Michigan, has worked in the Northern District Court of Ohio, and also volunteers with Blue Star Families. So she brings a good legal experience and just a well-rounded experience to the Planning Commission. And Callie, welcome. If you wanted to say hello or add anything, feel free to do so.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Very excited to hopefully contribute and be a part of the community in a more active way. So thank you. And I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully I can fill these shoes.
Well, welcome. We're glad to have you.
And so another update I was going to give the Planning Commission is that I recently sent some information about some trainings. Some of these you saw on the list that we sent last week are actually recorded and in the past, which is not as good as being present for the live training, but registration is open both for the series of miscellaneous master planner courses, including some of the upcoming ones are going to be planning and zoning for electric cars, assessing and zoning, and opening doors to affordable housing. There's also, conveniently for tonight's discussion, a series on agritourism. We do only have until Friday to register you for that series. So if you want to join that, please let myself or Tammy Doring know as soon as possible so we can get you signed up. I'm still trying to determine how to access that training, but we'll hopefully know very soon. And so those are some of the training updates. And just a matter of the last thing I was going to talk about is the format of these planning commission meetings. As I said, we'll still be going remote for a while following the lead of our Board of Trustees. So at least until September from the sound of it. So I'll certainly let you know if anything else changes with that.
Great. Thanks a lot, Director Power. Good information. Anyone else? A general discussion item? Nothing? Anyone in the audience? Nope, looks like we're clear. In that case, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thanks. I'll take Commissioner Cullen for the motion and support from Commissioner Budd. And all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We're adjourned. Good meeting, everyone.